Hey guys, David Robinson here. Welcome to the apartment investing journey. Another great episode for you today. Another great guest that I believe will be able to provide some value to your business. I've got Sanjay Hegde with me today. Sanjay, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, David. I appreciate you inviting to the show, and I'm super excited for this one.
So Sanjay is the founder and president of Blue Ring Investors. He brings to the company more than 15 years experience establishing customer relationships and managing multi-million dollar corporate accounts for companies in the US and abroad. His expertise includes sales, marketing, strategic planning, executing long-term business plans, analyzing market trends, and finding and acting upon new opportunities for growth with his company. So, Sanjay, obviously, very brief bio. Our podcast is all about the journey. And so I would love for you to back up and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the real estate space.
Absolutely. Thanks, David. So it has been an interesting journey for me. Back in India, I come from a very middle class family, and my parents did their level best to give me a good education. I'm a pharmacist by education back in India, and I moved to the United States in the year 2001. Coming in new, I was trying to figure out, like, okay, what is it that I really want to do? Because America is truly a land of opportunities, and I wanted to see where do I fit in. Because I realized, first of all, it takes a long time for the green card to, I had waited for 7 years to come to the United States. And when I got over here, you get a physical green card without which you cannot apply for a social security. And for some reason, usually you get it within 2 weeks of your arrival, but it took me like 3 months. I
Hmm.
don't know why. And because of which I could not apply for a job. And you know this, right? I've learned one thing, that when a man does not have a job, he ends up making babies. And my wife gets pregnant, right? So now I'm desperately looking for a job. I get my green card, physical green card, and then I apply for the Social Security, and I'm going looking for a job, thinking that okay, my pharmaceutical background is going to help me. Obviously, because I didn't have a formal education over here, I don't have a license over here, no one is going to give me a job. So now I have two options: either go back to college or find a job, because my wife is pregnant. And I decided to go find a job, and I get a job at a company called SAFT, which used to manufacture lithium batteries. And I started on the floor manufacturing these cells. And later on, 9/11 happens, and I there was an opportunity for me to apply for a maintenance mechanics helper. So I started off at like $7.25 in the beginning. Every single path for me was like, okay, this is going to get me a little bit more, because the maintenance mechanic was giving $9, and I would have been able to make up to $14. Um, Fast forward, I did that for 3 years, working 90 hours a week, because I was taking all the overtime I could get. Did all of my second shift, did part of first shift, part of second shift, part of third shift overall. And then kind of there was an opportunity for me to become a production supervisor, which I applied for. They interviewed me, and I took that position. Later on, I just kept growing within the company, got into sales as a sales rep, then a sales manager, then the director of sales for Americas and Asia. Obviously, it was a French company, so I had a lot of opportunities to travel to France and travel the world as the director of sales for Americas and Asia. Managed about $300 million worth of business. So all those were good. So over a period of time, as you grow, you also start earning more. But at the same time, when you're earning more, with great power comes great responsibilities. So guess what? You have little time for your family, you have little time for anything, but you do have money. Now what do you do with that money is the question, right? So I said, hey, real estate is the way to go. So, well, there is money in real estate, because growing up, they always kept telling, that's one thing that doesn't grow, and that is land. So there is only limited of it, so that's always money in it, it'll always appreciate. So now I said, okay, so what am I going to do? So I put that money in single family rental, and I also invested some of it as a limited partner in some multifamily, as well as some storage units. And And life continued as I went. Life was hectic, but I always noticed that I was not making money in single family, whereas I was seeing returns and dividends in multifamily and in the storage, right? So that kind of got my mind churning as to like what's going on. But then I've always wanted to do something more. I said, okay, what is the other thing that I can do? And I thought, okay, just like any other Indian, should I go for a 7-Eleven, open up a liquor store, or any of these things, do some flips? And you give a calculator in the hands of an Indian man, we'll crunch the numbers. But you give a saw in our hands, we don't know what to do, right? So that's the problem that we have. But I ended up saying, okay, none of these business will make sense to me. At least it's not for me. And I saw that, okay, on the side, I'm losing money on my single family because there are some repairs coming up or something or the other always. And I'm thinking in my head, how do I actually, make money? How do they make money in multifamily and the storage, whereas I'm losing money over here? They said that real estate is a lot of money. And guess what? I said in 2020, there was this RE mentor, a Dave Lindahl Institute that was in Charlotte, and they had this seminar. I said, you know what? It's about multifamily. I want to go and take this opportunity to learn about it. So I go there, I see it, and I'm like, okay, they kind of gave you a vague idea about what it is. So now you want to sign up for the boot camp, right? Because that's the whole purpose of that. So I sign up for the boot camp, and obviously, after the boot camp, I said, this is something that I think I can do because the numbers started making sense. I could figure out finally where the money is coming from. And then later on, I said, but the 3 days of boot camp doesn't give you a whole lot, because yeah, it gives you enough to understand, but enough to be dangerous where you can really dig yourself into something. So I said, okay, mentorship program is really a good thing. And I got into the mentorship program. I did that mentorship program, got a good understanding of what this is all about. And later on, started off with Blue Ring Investors. And so far, we closed 3 properties and, all in different states. And that's the beauty of multifamily, right? Like you can be in any state you want. I'm in North Carolina, but I own property in Omaha, Nebraska, Killeen, Texas, and one in, Winston-Salem in North Carolina. So that's the beauty of this. So I learned that over a period of time, and that's pretty much what my journey has been.
Well, that's a great synopsis of about 20 to 20 years of your life. So that's fantastic. I appreciate you, giving us some background and some history. There's a couple pieces that I'm curious about. Just to give our listeners some context, roughly when was it that you went to that first seminar? Well, actually, let me back up. When did you buy that first single family rental?
Oh, that was in 2016 timeframe.
Okay, perfect. So
Yes.
2016, and then what was it where you mentioned that your single family wasn't making any money, but the multifamily and the self-storage were. Where did you buy the property, the first single family property, rental property that you owned?
Well, actually, I bought it very close to my house because, when you buy something, right, and that you own, you want to have that your hands on it, right? You want to know what's going on with it. So that's pretty much what it was. I bought a couple around where I live, and that way it's easier to manage because what happens in single family is that you want to do that yourself, like and that's also another thing that I learned over a period of time that it's too small of a property where you can give it to a property management company to handle, right? Unless you have like a whole bunch of single families all in one row. Now you can, like you have a 10 or 15 of those and you can give like all of them on to a property management company saying, okay, hey, go deal with this, right? Unless that happens, you got to do it all on your own. Or either you're going to bring somebody. As I said to you, I tried doing it thinking that I could do certain things on my own. But then, as I said about, us how Indians are, like you give us something with calculators, we can do it. But I tried actually putting together the floors. I tried didn't do a great job of it. Good, it's a rental property. If it were to be my own home, my wife would have killed me. So,
Okay, so that's great. So you bought that first one in 2016. It sounds like you may have bought a few others, but you
yes.
also were a limited partner in some multifamily and self-storage deals.
Yeah.
Um, who exposed you to the concept of investing passively in multifamily and self-storage versus continuing to do what you were doing, which was, buying single-family rentals?
Yeah, a gentleman by Rick actually got me into this one because I was also learning about, one day I was watching something on finance and they were talking about how you could use your 401k as well
Mm.
to invest in self-directed IRAs and things like that. So I got in touch with Rick, just trying to get an understanding of like, hey, tell me a little bit more about. I saw your video on YouTube. Tell me something about it. And he was like, boom, boom, boom. And he's like, by the way, Sanjay, there is this really good opportunity. I've been putting money on this one. I'm not a financial advisor, but, I could tell you that I have made money on this one. Try this. And I was like, okay, let me give this a shot. So, that's pretty much how it all started for me.
Okay, that's great. And then, so 2016 was when you bought that first single family, and then you had some experience with other single families, some limited partner investments, some LP investment, passive investing in multifamily and self storage. And then you ended up attending this seminar that led to a boot camp that led to a mentorship program. When was it that you attended the seminar?
It was in 2020.
Perfect.
It is sad that it happened in 2020. I should have had done it much, much before. I wish I had done that, but it was funny that it started in 2020, and right after that seminar, it took a longer time for the boot camp because right then COVID,
Yeah.
hit, and it was bad.
So, and I assume that are you still working in your corporate career as well?
What I've done is I'm a consultant now, and I
Mm,
do consultancy because obviously, as I always say that any business is takes time for it to evolve and it takes time for it to grow. So
sure.
obviously, multifamily is not a get rich quick scheme. It takes time, and you got to dedicate certain time to it. And that's pretty much what I did. So I have a consultancy for because my experience is in batteries. So I do a lot of consultancy for that. And also I started off a consultancy in 2016 timeframe, 2015, 2016 timeframe, which came across more like as, God does everything for a reason. And I had a friend of mine who was a dentist, and she happened to have a practice of her own. And she had told me, Sanjay, I bought a practice. I have certain challenges with this. Can you help me? And I was like, what kind of marketing have you done? And she said, well, this is what I've done. And I kept telling her that's not marketing. And she said, would you want to give it a shot? And that was when I first started off with a consultancy company called DNS Consultants. And
Mm,
I kind of, because of my marketing background, sales and marketing background, I kind of helped her grow the business after learning a little bit about what dentistry is all about. And that led to another with one of her friends telling, hey, why don't you help me out, because her business has been growing since you took over. So I was like, well, that's not my actual job. So but I was doing that on the side. But I always looked at it as like probably God had planted that seed for me so I could now use that. So in 2020 I started off as a consultant to a lot of these battery companies, and that's pretty much what I've
interesting.
been doing.
Okay, great. And let's talk a little bit about getting involved in your first syndication opportunity. So you attended this seminar in 2020. Things took a while because of COVID and everything that was going on, but you attended the boot camp, and then you actually joined the mentorship program. And then you mentioned that you closed 3 deals in 2021. Talk to us about what that experience was like, um, getting involved in your first syndication deal.
Awesome. So, David, anyone who's been in multifamily would know that multifamily syndication is a team sport. It's not a one-man show. So, and every single person in needs to understand that what is it that is their so-called superpower, right? Like, what is it that they bring to the table? What is it? What value do they bring in? And where do they fit in well? Like some people are really good at finding deals or great communication with their brokers. Some people are really good at underwriting, and that's their main thing. Some people are good at asset management, is because of their experience and what have you. And some people are good at selling themselves and raising capital. And that's where I come in, because that's my superpower. I found that I was good with people, and I had certain skill sets about me, especially being managing hundreds and millions of dollars of sales, and not only sales but the P&L. All of those things equates into like, okay, you're and working with investors, trying to understand where the investments are coming from, how do we want to leverage. All of those things kind of gave me that edge that, okay, this is where I fit in well. And that's when I decided that when I started with Blue Ring Investors, I felt like that is what I will do. That is, do strictly capital raise. And that is how I got into that particular thing. And every opportunity that I got into, I raised capital for them, and then also started doing asset management for it.
Understandable. Okay. And so, how did the first deal that you got involved with, did it come through the mentorship program? Because obviously you weren't focused on deal sourcing, so you must have, formed a relationship with someone who was sourcing deals, or were brought into the deal from someone that had already identified that. Maybe give us a little bit of background on how you got involved in that first deal. Just, I think some of our listeners are out there probably in that stage where maybe they're looking to make a transition from single family or small multifamily into commercial multifamily. Maybe they're a part of a mentorship group or they're not, but they're wondering how to get involved in their first larger commercial multifamily deal.
Great question, David. So to me, it's all about networking, right? So you got to network with people. You try to meet with people who are in the same space as you are in. And the first thing that I always believe is, it's not about what's in for me. It's like, what can I bring to the table? Like, it's always like when you go to people and tell them, hey, this is what I can do for you, or this is what I can bring to the table. Instead of us asking somebody, hey, do you have something for me that I can do? I always believe in saying, this is what I can do for you, and let's see how we can partner. So when you bring that, when you meet with the whole bunch of people, and that's pretty much what you're trying to say, you will find somebody out there, and especially money is king, right? So there is somebody out there who's always looking for somebody who can raise capital for them. And that's pretty much what it was. So I started talking to people. I started networking with like-minded people who are in the same space as I was looking into, and said, hey, this is what I do. This is what I want to specialize in, and I want to start raising capital. And do you have any projects that you're working on where I can actually raise capital? Obviously, initially, it is not an easy thing, because not everybody is just going to jump at it, right? It always ends up becoming somebody's out there who would have probably not thought about it, saying, okay, this guy is new. He's probably, I don't know, but then there comes a time when they say, hey, can you raise capital for us, because we are really short of, like, we had to raise like 3 million. Now we are like short of 1 million. Can you raise 1 million? And the answer is yes, I can. And you deliver on it, and boom, you close that one deal. Now you know that, okay, that's the second thing, and the third thing just follows. In fact, it's funny, podcasting also definitely helps a lot. This is how I found my partner, Dr. Jeanette Binbach, right? So I was doing a podcast, and one day she had always invested money in multifamilies, not multifamilies, but more duplexes and quadruplexes, right? But she always wanted to get into multifamily, and she always heard from a whole bunch of syndicators that it's syndication and multifamily is a team sport, but she could never find out how to get it done. And she heard my podcast, and she called me, and she was like, Sanjay, tell me a little bit about this. Like, you specialize in raising capital, but again, Blue Ring Investors, when you're talking about, you were talking more about doctors. How is that? And I explained to her, I said, okay, this is the reason why I chose to go with a niche of doctors, especially because I was working with dentists, and I realized the amount of work that physicians put in to make their patients feel comfortable. And it's so hard for them that many of them cannot actually go through their phase of retirement. They start in their career late, and then they have very little money saved because they're all good when they're making money. But after that, what do they have?
Mm-hmm.
Many of them cannot even retire comfortably. So she understood where I was coming from, and she said, "Hey, Sanjay, I want to know more about it." And we started talking for a while, and then later on, one day I just happened to ask her. I said, "Hey, you seem to be so much interested in this. Why don't you get into this and learn more about it?" And she's like, "You serious?" I said, "Yes, she is." So now we both raise capital together, and so this is all about networking. It's all about getting to know people, and more than anything else, I would say is it's always about giving.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think about taking. Always try to give, and things will come to you. Twofolds, threefolds. It's all about that. It's karma. You give, you receive.
So let's maybe transition and let's talk about your specialty then, the capital raising aspect of real estate syndication. And first off, you described a little bit about why you decided to go into capital raising because you had some experience with some dentists, but that's different. I mean, having one experience where you consulted with a dentist and helped them grow their business to raising millions of dollars for large commercial multifamily syndication is two different things, right? So
absolutely,
talk to us about the process and maybe some very tactical advice or steps that you could guide someone that is looking to get into the capital raising side of syndication. How would you guide them?
Okay, so the first thing, anything that you have to remember when it comes down to money is what? It's trust. And trust is something that takes time and it's earned. It comes with time. So the first thing, that's one part of it. The second part of it, what does any investor want to know? Number one, does this guy know what he's doing? Number two, who are the people in this particular syndication? What kind of experience do they have? Right? How much money do I need to put in? Will I get my money back? And what are the returns? Right? Those are the key things. So that's the fundamental. So now you focus on doing that. So how do you earn people's trust? By doing a couple of things. Number one, you network. You show a genuine concern for their for them. It's all about. It's not about you. It's always about your investors. So you got to show a genuine interest in what they want, because not every investor has the same method to their madness. Every single investor is different.
Can I cut you off a little bit and ask you about that networking piece? Networking is a word that we throw around a lot, and it can mean a lot of different things. But for you, how did you build up your network of investors? Like, what were the steps that you actually took to build up that network of investors?
Okay,
from the
very good
beginning?
question. Yeah, it all comes with a lot of marketing. It does come with a lot of identifying the right kind of niche that you're going after, right?
And what kind of, well, let's start with the niche. What niche did you select?
Okay, so I started off with two real key ones. One is obviously the doctors and physicians. Okay, the second one was high net worth individuals who were busy professionals like software engineers and things like that. Right. So I don't know if you have heard of LinkedIn. So
Absolutely.
I know everybody does, but I was just bringing that up. So on LinkedIn, you have what is called as LinkedIn's Sales Navigator. And Sales Navigator has that feature of actually, either going into the groups or where you want to bring in. If you put in the filters, it will tell you who the people are. Right now, there is another software. It's called a e-grabber. Okay, and this e-grabber, what it does is it communicates with your Sales Navigator. And what ends up happening is, yes, now you have everybody's contact information on Sales Navigator, but it only lets you communicate with them on LinkedIn. right?
Mm.
So now when you're communicating only on LinkedIn, guess what happens? How many of them are really checking out their messages every day? Nobody.
Not many.
But everybody checks their so-called email, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what eGrabber does, it goes, once it pulls out all that information, it grabs the information from your sales navigator. What it does, it goes on the World Wide Web, and then it picks up their actual office emails.
Mm.
Now you start off sending out newsletters, you want to send out things like that. And once they look at it, now they know that you exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now that they know that you exist, you are putting relevant content on your newsletter, which actually helps them because you are trying to help them. That you are either helping them to retire sooner, or you're trying to help them, go spend that extra money that they're going to get from passive investment into something else, right? Like go on vacations, what have you, right?
So I'm curious. This is actually very, very helpful. Thank you for getting very specific about the strategy here, utilizing LinkedIn and the tool eGrabber to collect emails. I know that the listeners are asking the question, all right, how do you actually approach? What does the first email sound like, look like to step into someone's inbox in their email without any prior relationship? How do you approach that without immediately being sent to spam, or how do you break the ice in that type of scenario?
Obviously, right? That's a very good question. Understanding every person's pain point is the key.
Mm.
So you have to understand the pain points. The thing is, you have pain. I have a solution for the pain, right? It's just like medicine, right? You come to me, doctor, I have a pain. And the doctor says, does it hurt over here? And he's like, yeah, okay, I got a pill for that, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what it is. So you're understanding the pain points is the key. Now, obviously, um, when you're putting it out, you have to make sure that, okay, hey, understanding the pain points can be different for different people, right? So for someone who is trying to retire, for him, it's like, I want to retire. I don't have enough in savings. For some people, it's just like, I've been investing in multifamily, but I want to keep scaling up so that I
Mm.
can do things better. So you got to keep working on the newsletters. You got to keep coming up with newer ones. But the generic one is always the first pain point. Hey, do you want to make more money? Do you want to retire sooner? Right? Who doesn't
Mm-hmm.
want to retire sooner? We all want to retire sooner. So that's the key, right? So once you have the key thing, now you got to keep the whole thing going, because now you got their
Mm-hmm.
attention with, okay, yeah, I want to retire sooner, I want to retire comfortably. Now what is the next thing? Okay, hey, I want to take vacations now, right? I want to do this. So now you're just piquing their interest. So it's a gradual thing. And that's how you, and at the end of the day, what is the message? Your thing is for them to get onto your landing page on your website and schedule a call with you. So that's pretty
Yeah.
much what it is.
That was going to be my next question. Maybe walk us through what an experience would be like for a potential investor as they work with your group. You don't know them, they don't know you. What's sort of the typical life cycle or funnel process that you take an investor through from first contact all the way to where they may consider investing with you?
Absolutely. I think the first thing, as I said, is, now you understood that, okay, hey, they have come to your website, they have looked at your website. I have certain lead magnets on my website, like, 5 reasons why you should invest, or 9 reasons why you have to invest. I have an ebook that's out there. All these are free downloads that they can put in. Dr. Jeanette has put in YouTube videos on it where she's talking about why doctors should invest in it and things like that. So it has a lot of educational thing in it. But now they want to talk to you, right? So they come to us. The first thing that what we want to know is the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want to invest? What kind of investments have you done before? What kind of experience have you had with that? What kind of, all of those things, and what kind of returns did you get out of it? Were you happy with those returns? Why do you want, what kind of returns are you expecting out of this one? Then we go into, once we have a good understanding of their whys, now we want to understand is like, okay, what is our culture? What is our business philosophy? How do we do things? So that we both understand each other, because understanding is the key, because this is where the trust factor comes in, right? Because the person needs to trust us first. So we do that part of it. Then later on, we ask like, okay, hey, is this something that is right for you? Because we want to understand that, because there is, it's, the goal is not over here to get somebody's money and invest it someplace else. The goal over here is to make sure that your investor goes home happy, that we are generating revenues for them. And that's the main purpose, right? So once we understand their methodology, now we can tell them this is what we do. And then when there is an opportunity out there, we do approach them based on what their comfort level is. Say, for example, someone might want to invest only $50,000. Someone might want to say 100,000, or depending on where they are, we would go to them. Some people want specific returns. Some people are okay with certain returns, right? Like an A-class property might not give you the same kind of return that a B and a C-class can, because the B and the C-class properties have much better value adds that goes into it compared to an A-class property, right? So that's pretty much how it works out. So we try to tailor make it for our investors, so that we are not bothering them. We are not trying to just call them, hey, there is an investment opportunity, go, come. No, that's not what it is. We want to go to them, and then when we talk to them, we want to tell them, hey, we spoke this is what your expectations were. We have an opportunity for you to invest in. Let's sit down and talk about this and see if this is the right opportunity that you feel also is and would like to invest in. And that's pretty much what the approach we take.
I love that. And just from a very tactical perspective, you mentioned that you have lead magnets on your site, that you start off with LinkedIn, eGrabber, then sending them an introductory email. Ideally, you're driving them to your website where they take a look. Maybe one of your lead magnets catches their attention. They download that lead magnet. From there, I assume then the email is automated, or maybe it's personalized, but then it's, hey, let's jump on a quick phone call. Let's learn about your goals. Let me tell you about what we do as well. And that's where you have that conversation with that prospective investor. Is that correct?
Yes, David. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Love it.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for going into some detail about that. I think that's helpful and a very simple, but solid strategy for attracting new investors. Let me, I want to be respectful of your time, Sanjay, but, and so I want to start winding down here. But before we do, I've got a few final questions for you.
Sure.
The first is, what's the biggest challenge that you're facing in your business right now?
I think the biggest challenge for any capital raiser, I would say, it's always you got to keep growing, right? It's like, unless you have like 10 or 15 investors who have like zillions of dollars and are like, Sanjay, don't worry, we'll keep pouring money into it, right? So it's like blood. You got to keep coming up with fresh blood. So you always have to keep investors coming in and earn their trust, which is a very it's as I always said, trust is not something that happens immediately. It takes time. I can tell you that you will find people who will talk to you, who will say every single thing that you want to hear. But then you get to the point when they're gun shy, they don't want to pull the trigger on it, or they're like, maybe next time, I really don't know whether I want to do this or not. So getting to that point, and at the end of the day, you're not trying to push anybody into it, right? You want them to do it wholeheartedly. All you can do is you can only give them that opportunity. And that's the biggest challenge, is like keep communicating and bringing up new investors. I would not use that as a challenge, but I would say that would be the difficult part.
Yeah, understandable. What's something that you're just absolutely knocking out of the park right now in your business that you're super excited about, that you feel like you do very, very well?
I think one thing that I do really, really well is bring good opportunities to my investors. I think because the thing is, I'm really good at underwriting. I have a great understanding of underwriting. I have a wonderful team of people that I've surrounded myself with who have some great opportunities. And I look at those opportunities and I look at it from a point of view, it's like, okay, how will this really go? Because at the end of the day, I have to vet the deals as well. It's not like somebody has an opportunity, I just go there and say, hey, I have investments, I'm going to bring it in. No, that's not how it works, right? You have to have a good understanding of like, okay, I'm part of this because that's number one. Number two is like, my name is associated with this because my investors are not coming there because of the opportunity. They're more coming because they have put their faith in me, and they want, I'm bringing this opportunity to them, so I have to make sure that the due diligence is done on my side as well, in terms of like what kind of project is this, was the underwriting done right, is the underwriting, because at the end of the day, it's just your underwriting template is just nothing but a calculator, but what you put in, so it's like garbage in, garbage out, so you want to make sure that there's no garbage in it. So I vet those things. I go through the process of understanding where did these numbers come from, how much of this is really doable, right? So all of those things have to be done. So that's where I do a good job of before I even take it to my investors.
Love that. Sanjay, I appreciate your time today. This has been a great conversation. The last question I've got for you is, what do you see in the future for you and Blue Ring investors? What are you really excited about moving forward, and what do you hope your business looks like in the coming years?
Yeah, it's absolutely a great question, because you know syndication is not only about or multifamily or anything. For me, it is all about giving back to the community. And for me, as I said, the asset classes that I focus on is multifamily, senior housing, and student. And the reason behind it is because as an immigrant who had first come down to the United States and couldn't afford a whole lot. I couldn't afford my own house and anything. I started off in a rental house. So to me, it is like it's very important for somebody to have a good, safe environment to live in and to raise their kids. So that's one way of giving back to the community, because when you give this, and a child is raised in a safe place, in a safe environment, they become better citizens and they do better in life. So that is one thing that I definitely is very close to my heart. The second is students. Students are important. They are our future, right? The younger generation is the thing. So as a student, living over there, getting a nice place a safe place to be in, and being able to be closer in proximity. And obviously, yeah, I know they like to party and things like that, but that's why you have to keep more safety in place for them. And obviously, our senior citizens who have actually contributed so much to our economy over the years, the last thing you want them is not to have a very comfortable place to be in. Right. So these are the three places that we want to focus our energy into. And as we grow, that is one of the things that we want to do. And moving forward, we do see ourselves building more and more senior housing from the scratch, because there is a scarcity for that. And we do see that there is going to be a big boom for that particular sector. So that's pretty much where we see ourselves.
Love it. Well, Sanjay, again, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us today. What's the best way for our listeners to connect with you and learn more about what you have going on?
So David, I made it very easy. As I said, everything for me is about digitalized and social media. So obviously I have, you can reach me on through my website, www.blueringinvestors.com. We also have our presence on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, as well as Twitter. So yeah, you can reach me every way possible. And please don't, please feel free to go to my website and pick up on any of the lead magnets. They're all free. And, there is also a Calendly out there where you can either, schedule a free, no obligation call with either myself or Dr. Jeanette, who's my partner. And we'll be more than happy to work with you. If not anything, you take away something, you learn something, and that's it.
Yeah, love it. Well, we'll have that information in the show notes. So if you'd like to connect with Sanjay, go ahead and go down in the show notes right now and click on one of those links and connect with Sanjay and his team. Again, thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to connecting with you again down the road.
Thanks, David. I really appreciate you inviting me on your show. And I hope I did bring some value to your listeners. And I'm super excited about what all of your listeners have to say about this. And thank you again for the invite.
My pleasure.